My name is Jerry Gill. Today is October 27, 2008. I'm visiting with Dr. Michael Lorenz, Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine at Oklahoma State University in his office on the OSU campus. Dr. Lorenz, you have a long and distinguished history with OSU, the College of Veterinary Medicine. OSU undergraduate student, member of the class of 1969 and of the College of Veterinary Medicine, and Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine since 2001, and head of the Center for Veterinary Health Sciences. You have a little bit of history there, so maybe we could backfill a little bit and break some of that down. Can you tell us a little bit about your family life and about where you grew up?
I was born in Okeene, Oklahoma. My dad was a farmer. I'm a fourth generation Okie. My great grandfather homesteaded in Blaine County. And so interesting, that farm is still in the Lorenz family. I have a cousin that still farms it. I was actually raised north of Enid. Went to high school at Kremlin High School and graduated from there in 1963. And I came to Oklahoma State in 1963 to get into veterinary school as quickly as possible. Didn't have a lot of resources, and so the quicker the better.
Was there a certain individual or circumstance that directed you towards Oklahoma State University?
Well, actually, I started out in high school. I really wanted to be a physician, but it didn't feel like I had the resources to make that work. And so a good friend of the family was a veterinarian. He wasn't an Oklahoma State graduate. He was an Iowa State graduate. Happened to be a classmate of the dean of the veterinary school at that time, Glenn Holmes. And so anyway, this veterinarian had practiced in Enid for a long time and encouraged me to become a vet. And so that's the direction I went.
What maybe kind of start with your undergraduate experience, Dean Lorenz. What do you remember about your undergraduate experience? Leadership activities, opportunities or involvement. What are some of the things you were in?
Well, unlike a lot of undergraduate students here, I actually went home almost every weekend to work. And if it hadn't been for some scholarship money in the College of Agriculture and working every weekend, I wouldn't have had the money to stay in school. So I wasn't involved that much in activities on the OSU campus. Go to school 5 days a week, 3 o'clock on Friday, go home, work a weekend, and come back to school Monday morning.
What your undergraduate curriculum, did it, what do you remember about some of your courses, some of your professors that you had?
Yeah. Well, I graduated in with the class of 26 from Kremlin High School, and one of my classmates, Dan Zaladek, who people know him as a good OSU alum. Dan came over to school in engineering, and I was in pre-veterinary medicine. And I think the most outstanding personality I ran into was a woman that taught English composition. I believe her name was Muriel Humphreys. And she really made you write. And by mid-semester, first semester I was here, I was in this course, and by the midpoint of that semester, 2/3 of the kids had dropped out. Most of them were pre-med, pre-dentistry, pre-pharmacy, and so I hung in there. And she gave me a good lecture one afternoon on her philosophy of teaching, and I think that lady got me more organized to college life than anybody else. I had a lot of good instructors in my undergraduate career. I had some that weren't so great, but I had some that were pretty good.
Let's see, when you came into College of Arts and Sciences?
No, I was in agriculture. Agriculture.
Okay. So I was going to say Bob Comm was the Dean of Arts and Sciences at the time, right?
Bob Comm was. He actually became president of Oklahoma State while I was here.
What about, you're pretty modest about your engagement, your involvement, but what about your recognition by the OSU Alumni Association as one of the top 10 graduating seniors and as the outstanding male graduating student from Oklahoma State University in 1967?
That was kind of interesting. I got into veterinary school in 1965. That was back in the days when you could do your pre-veterinary program in 2 years. And I was nearly a straight A student in my undergraduate work and pretty much a straight A student in vet school. So scholarship was obviously a part of it. While I was in vet school, I was active in a lot of organizations and active in Student Association, American Veterinary Medical Association. And maybe the competition wasn't so great that year, Jerry. I don't know, but it was quite an honor, and I know the people in vet school were very thrilled that one of theirs had won it.
What do you have some favorite memories of your undergraduate experience?
Oh, I think my favorite experiences were all centered around OSU athletics, actually. Homecoming. I love going to the wrestling matches. Stood in line forever for basketball tickets. See, I got married after my first year here, and I recall going to Big 8 basketball with my wife who was pregnant. And I remember sitting through a 4 overtime game with Kansas State or University of Kansas. Heck of a deal. And we had this guy that played defensive back for Oklahoma State. What was his name? Gill, I think. But I had a great time. And I really became a devout OSU wrestling fan, and I still am.
Well, let me kind of a trivia quiz here, but who's your favorite wrestler? There were some outstanding ones in that era.
Probably Yo-Yo Yutaki and Joe James. Love to watch Joe James warm up, and I like the fact that he pinned, what was it, McWhorter or McWhorters or whatever his name was from OU, one of their football players that thought he could wrestle. Well, Joe put him on his back in about 30 seconds.
You're in the 190-pound match. Well, Joe James would be warming up. He'd pull off his shirt. And right in the middle of the match, you hear this ooh and this ah. It was Joe James on the sideline taking his warm top off.
Yeah, Fred Fossard was another one of my favorites. Fred had that left arm that was affected from polio, I believe. He would bait those wrestlers with that left arm. They'd grab that weak arm, and the next thing you knew, you had them on their back. Yeah. And of course, Coach Roderick, he was interesting to watch him, and he'd get down there and go through every move with them. So I just wish today that the college kids would come back to college wrestling. When I go watch the Cowboys wrestle now, it's really men of my age that are the primary people that are there. And it's just like it doesn't have the appeal to the college students like it once had. But we would stand out for 2 days to get tickets to see the OU duel here.
Odd even IDs.
Yeah, odd even IDs. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the food over in Bennett Hall. Lived in Bennett Hall first year I was here. I had 6 different roommates in 1 year. And the food was pretty good. I'd get down there and particularly, try to get in when the athletes lived over in West Bennett. I'd try to get down there and eat about the same time they did because they always got good food.
Well, what, how many students in your, kind of moving to your College of Veterinary Medicine experience, how many students were in your entering class?
There were 48 in my entering class in 1965. We ended up graduating 40. Some students did not make it academically. We had 2 students, I think, that dropped to the class behind us. Interestingly, I think the professors in the vet school thought we were one of the dumbest classes they had graduated. They always held the class of 68 up as being a much stronger class. There were like 50, I think, in the class of 68. They're going to be on campus this weekend with their reunion, but there's been members of the class of 69 that did pretty well, I think.
What do you, the toughest class you had in the college?
I think early on, probably the toughest class was biochemistry, and it was taught by people from campus. And in fact, one of the old professors, young professor at that time, that was helped teach it, is still here, and I get to see him from time to time. But we had a man by the name of Dwayne Peterson who taught anatomy, who also helped us through biochemistry. I found most of the coursework here exciting, and when you're excited about something, I think learning is pretty easy.
Did you have a favorite professor?
I did. There were about, not just one, there were 3 or 4. We had some really, really good professors. Dwayne Peterson, who actually gave the first lecture in the veterinary school when this place opened in 1948. His sidekick, Jonathan Friend. They taught anatomy. They were just outstanding. I really enjoyed the heck out of Jim Brazil. Jim's still on our faculty, teaching physiology. He was really, really, really a gifted teacher. And then there were some others too, but those are the ones that really stand out. Ralph Buckner, who taught us in the clinics. He was really a fine fellow and a good teacher. Really cared about us learning, and that's what I found so important. They wanted you to learn. They wanted you to be successful.
What? Who was your dean at that time?
Well, let's see. Glenn Holmes was the dean when I started veterinary school. He was an Iowa State graduated from Iowa State in 1936. He was a really, really good administrator, very, very strict. You knew if you ever got called up to see Dean Holmes, you were in trouble. Just tell you an amusing story. The first semester I'm in veterinary school down in anatomy, they administered the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Test. And if you've ever taken that test, you know there's some really bizarre questions on that test. Being this old farm boy sitting there looking at this, and do I love my sister? Do I kiss my sister? And I'm thinking, holy cow, this is the dumbest thing. So I just randomly started going down through there marking answers. And I don't know, some time went by, and Dr. Peterson in anatomy came up to me one day and he said, Mr. Lorenz, he said, you need to go see Dean Holmes. He needs to see you about your exam results. And so I go up and shaking and go to see Dean Holmes. He said, Mr. Lorenz, he said, you're either a pervert or you're just a wise ass. And he said, I think it's the latter. And so the way they handled that, they made me take that exam again in front of all my classmates. I guess I passed it because he let me graduate.
Okay. Well, I guess speaking of graduating now, I mean, you sort of glossing over this. Mike, you received the Dean Clarence H. McElroy Award as the outstanding member of the senior class. What can you tell us about that award and what it meant to you?
Well, Clarence McElroy was the founding dean of the veterinary school as we know it today. The veterinary college, there was an attempt to start a veterinary college back in the early 1900s. And the person that attempted to do that was Lowry Lewis. I remind everybody watching this that the football field at one time was named for Dr. Lewis. And to us veterinarians, it's still Lewis Field, but that's okay. Dr. Lewis wasn't successful, but one of his proteges was Clarence McElroy. And then after the war, there were a lot of returning veterans that wanted to go to veterinary school, and there was a cluster of veterinary colleges that started about 1948, 1949. University of Missouri school started then, Oklahoma State, University of Georgia, just to name three that started about that time. And Clarence McElroy put it together. It was put together on a shoestring. All the finances were not in place to make this thing work. He was a shrewd guy, and he hired some really outstanding faculty. Dwayne Peterson, Jonathan Friend, and there were other individuals here. And so the person that's chosen is the outstanding member of that senior class, and the way that's chosen by vote of the faculty and the person's classmates. And so that makes it, I think, extra special. And we now have the Dean Mac Club, and there's several faculty members here that have been honored with that award, and we take it pretty serious. And when we bring a new person in at our awards banquet, all the Dean Mac Club come on stage and welcome that new person into the club.
Great. Now, see, you got that award despite the fact that you had one B on your transcript.
I had one B on my transcript.
Do you want to share your story with us about that?
Well, that's an interesting story, and we had a individual here that was teaching us a course in poultry pathology, and that individual wanted to know how we liked the course, and he had the habit of telling long-winded personal stories, and class was generally about the life growing up in Iowa and how it was on the farm, and a lot of practice philosophy, and we weren't learning very much about chicken diseases. And if I'd have known how much I'd be using chicken diseases, I wouldn't have cared very much how much he taught us. But still, I thought you ought to get a dime, a bang for your buck. And so I asked a group of us one day how we liked his course. And I volunteered that perhaps he could spend more time talking about poultry diseases and less time about his personal life. And apparently he didn't like that very well because he gave me a B. Now, I found out that I had the highest average in the class and he gave 6 A's. So the question is, how do you get a B grade when you have the highest average in the class? And it was Dr. Peterson, one of my mentors here in the veterinary school, found out. He went to see Dean Holmes, and Dean Holmes, now the second time I've gone to see the dean, once because I'm a pervert, and now because maybe I've been wronged by a faculty member. Dean Holmes explained to me that in everybody's life a little rain falls, and I just need to get out an umbrella. I felt like he said, well, bend over and use some Vaseline. But anyway, what I learned from all of that was that if I turned out to be a teacher, I would not treat a student that way, regardless of how much I liked or disliked them. That, what they earn in class is what they get. So I did learn some good lessons from it, but that's how I got the B grade.
Maybe shift you with some highlights, some special memories of your time in the college that you especially.
Oh, I loved it here. I really had a positive influence here, and there were people like Roger Pansiera, who's a retired faculty member now. He was one of my heroes, and they inspired me to go on to academia. I was headed to practice. I was going back to Garfield County, and I was going to be a food animal practitioner. And in the early spring, like January of 1969, I was at a meeting over in Tulsa, and I was introduced to two of the founding fathers of modern small animal medicine, Robert Kirk from Cornell and Jake Mosier from Kansas State. People in veterinary medicine recognize those names as being, two of the real giants. And Dr. Kirk suggested to me that I might do an internship, and I'd never heard of what an internship was. So coming back to Stillwater, I'm thinking, boy, that would be neat. Go to Cornell, do this thing called an internship. Started talking to faculty here, and had a lot of faculty that got on board and energized that, and told me I needed to stay in academia. So I trucked off from here to Cornell, and it was a great thing I did it. My wife and I say the two best things we ever did was when we went to Cornell and when we decided to leave.
When the winter's a little colder.
Winters are cold, and they had this habit of exploiting the young people. They felt like you were there to service the glory of old Cornell, and while you're starving to death, that's kind of hard to put up with. But I tell you what, I had a lot of faculty that were strong believers in what I could do, and they actually molded me to be a good teacher, motivated me to be a good teacher, and to put that number one.
What was the Dean Harry W. Orr award that you received?
Yeah, that's given to I think that's given to the second year student that has the highest academic average. It's given in the fall of their third year, I believe. Harry Orr, second dean of the veterinary school. From what I didn't know him personally, as obviously I didn't know Clarence McElroy. But the thing that I learned about these two men, particularly Clarence McElroy, is they had a strong sense of social justice. And there was no games played. I mean, Clarence McElroy negotiated so that the women in Texas could go to veterinary school. They were forbidden to go to vet school at Texas A&M because they didn't take women. And so Clarence McElroy negotiated an agreement between the Board of Regents of Oklahoma and the Board of Regents of Texas. And so Texas women came to Oklahoma State, then Oklahoma A&M. And so we're going back into the early 1950s now. And so a man of his era to have that sensitivity for gender issues. And there were some other things that I can't put on film, but this man believed in doing the right thing, and that's always been a motivation to me.
Was he dean of dean of students, dean of men, several years at Oklahoma State University before he became dean of the college?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe he was. Uh-huh.
Well, mine kind of turned into a little different from OSU for a while. So you went to Cornell.
I went to Cornell. I did an internship and a residency there in small animal.
Could you kind of share maybe your career after that? You got back to OSU.
Yeah, I was there at Cornell for 3 years, and then we left in 1972, and I joined the faculty at the University of Georgia. And Georgia was in the midst of a total rebuilding of their veterinary college. It was not a very highly rated veterinary college at that point in time. And the president at the University of Georgia was a Georgia graduate, a veterinarian. And so he was moving very quickly to try and change the whole university. And so I was there from 1972 until 1988. I went through all the academic ranks, served as their associate dean for academic affairs. In 1985, I was asked to be the dean here at Oklahoma State at that time. And I eventually had to turn that position down because of family reasons. And then in 1988, I went to Kansas State as the dean of veterinary medicine. I was dean there from 88 until 94. I returned to the faculty and back to clinics. I love clinical work. And I love being with the students and the trainees in clinics. And so I went back to the clinics, and then Dr. Joe Alexander, who had been a good friend of mine for a long time, he came to Cornell about the time I was leaving for his training program. We'd been friends for a long time. And I have to tell you in a moment a little story about him going to a football game at Kansas State. I might as well tell that story now. This was back when Barry Sanders was playing for Oklahoma State, and I invited Joe to come to Manhattan, go to Kansas State football game. And of course, K-State was pretty god-awful at that time. It was prior to Bill Snyder coming. And so it was one of those really nice fall afternoons, and by gosh, K-State gets out in front of Oklahoma State 28-0. Oklahoma State can't do anything the first half. They're fumbling, they're kicking, they're just awful. And so at halftime, the score is 35-7 in favor of Kansas State. I believe that's the score. Anyway, they were way ahead. And so Alexander's about ready to truck it back to step down here to Stillwater, and some lady sitting behind him patted him on the shoulder, said, now, we'll still lose it. And Joe turned to me and said, is that the mindset of the fans up here? And I said, wait, they might still lose it. The score ended up 55 or 58-35 Oklahoma State. Barry ran wild the second half, and the woman kept telling Joe, I told you so, I told you so. So anyway, I'd really decided, Jerry, that I was going to spend the rest of my life doing clinical work. And the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs position opened here. And Dr. Alexander asked me to apply, and at first I said no. I did not see myself going back to administration. And so some of the alums down here, particularly classmates, they called me, and they didn't shame me, but they basically said, what kind of an alum are you? You owe it to go down and take a look. So we did. We drove down and interviewed for the position. And going back to Manhattan, we got up to the Blackwell interchange and stopped at a Brahms. And I told Val, I said, we're going back to Stillwater. And the thing that sold me at that time was the cohesiveness of the faculty here, something that I didn't really sense at Kansas State. There was a lot of bickering and turfing and that kind of stuff going on at K-State. And here they were a smaller faculty, but they seemed to be pulling together. They knew where they wanted to go. They knew how they wanted to teach. They knew what their curriculum wanted to be. And they just decided on a new curriculum. They needed somebody with experience to come in and implement it. So in August of 1997, on a Saturday, we married our youngest daughter. On Sunday, we had a reception. Sunday night, I'm in Stillwater, and I start my job that Monday. And Wednesday, Velda's down here in a truck with all of our belongings. And so we made a quick exit from Manhattan to Stillwater. And gosh, have I enjoyed it since I've been back.
And you came as vice president.
Associate dean.
So associate dean for research.
For academic affairs, was a job I held at Georgia. And that's the job of dealing with the students, dealing with curriculum, dealing with admissions. Thought I had the perfect job, and then 2001 came around.
In which you then become interim dean.
Yeah, 2001, Dr. Alexander decided to become the interim vice president for research, and I was asked to be the interim dean. And Dr. Halligan came to see me, paid me a personal visit, and twisted my arm pretty hard because I really had some reluctance about getting into the deanship again. And so I decided to do it. And I was interim dean for 3 years. And then the administration on campus became stable, and they had a search, and then I became the real dean in 2004. But I count those 3 years, so I suspect I've done this now for 7 years, going on 8.
You mentioned a little bit about the cohesiveness of the faculty, but of course, in addition to the appeal of being your alma mater, were there other factors that weighed your decision? Because you did step down from a deanship to associate dean.
Well, I'd been a dean, but I was back on faculty. I'd already stepped down from the deanship at K-State. Okay, I was back on the faculty for 3 years, and I think there was this draw to me to be reunited with people in Oklahoma. I love people in Kansas. It takes a while for people in Kansas to really get to know you and accept you. I was at Georgia for 16 years, and my 2 older kids graduated from high school in Athens. My youngest daughter graduated from high school in Manhattan, Kansas. But growing up as an Okie, and I use that term a lot, and I don't find it derogatory, your Okies are facetious. We love to twist it just a little bit, make fun of it just a little bit. People in Kansas took everything you said literally, even when you were being facetious. Down here, people know it. They know when you're full of BS, and and so I've enjoyed that. And what I found out has been that I'm the first dean that's a graduate of this college. We've had other interim deans for short periods of time that were Oklahoma State graduates, but no dean has really been a graduate of the college. And that has played really, really well with the alums. And while I think it puts some additional pressure on me, it's also been a real help. And I've gone out and I've embraced those alumni in a way that I don't think any dean in the past has embraced them. And they've been really, really receptive to that. When you come to the end of the day and you say, what's really good about any college? It's your faculty, it's your students, and it's your alumni. And you can talk about great deans and whatever, but if you go back and really look at great deans, the really good ones are the ones that understand the strength that's in the alumni, the faculty, and the students. And you surround yourself with really, really strong people that have that same vision. And so our alums have responded really, really well. I'm also known as a very straight shooter from the standpoint of I won't twist it. I'll try to tell you as straight as I can, but the alums think there's been a lot of positive things that have happened in the veterinary school in the last 7 years. Not to say there weren't positive things before, I would never say that. But I think what we've accomplished here is a great warmth and openness. And when they have issues, they know they get addressed. And they're thrilled with the response they're getting out of our hospital and out of our diagnostic lab. And we've gone from having the reputation of being unresponsive and uncaring to being warm, friendly, communicating, and man, I'd send you another case. You're really doing a good job. And that translates into people then that are willing to say, it's annual fund time. Maybe I'll write you a check, or I'll send you a student, or here's this very wealthy donor I will send to you. And those are the reasons that you really want to be out there embracing your alumni. Plus, I'm one of them.
Speaking of being one of them, is it special to you, Mike, to be
Absolutely
where you got your initial training?
It's the most special thing I've ever done. I don't think I would have ever considered being the dean again anywhere else. And believe me, I've had several opportunities to leave Oklahoma State since I've been here. Been here 11 years, and this is where I'm going to finish. It's just that special relationship that I have with our students, I have with our faculty, and I know I have with all of our alumni. And there's just a synergism there. It works here. And finally, it's a place where when I talk about Orange and the Cowboys, it's real. In Kansas State, I'm talking about purple and white and wildcats and whatever. And, I probably believed in it while I was there, but it's not like being here. And I like the way that this veterinary school gets things done. We are not the richest. In fact, we're probably on the other end. But don't tell us no. If you tell us no, it'll happen. We'll figure out how to do it. And I just love that. Not to say we couldn't do with a lot more resources, but it's that pioneer spirit, and we can get this job done. I have faculty come here from Georgia. I've had a faculty member this morning. I was on the faculty with him at the University of Georgia. He's visiting, and their comment is, "We don't see how you guys get it done with the size of your faculty and whatever." And my response is, "We just know how to outwork you."
Well, speaking a little bit, when when you got here, what were some of the initial challenges that you faced?
I think that the biggest challenge that I faced when I got here was our graduates didn't like us real well. And that was unusual. It was the Cornell graduates liked Cornell because they believed in the fact that Cornell was the best in the world. Whether that was true or not, those Cornell graduates believed it. Georgia did not have the camaraderie that Cornell had. There were some issues there with alums and recent graduates and how they respected the school. Where I really saw graduates respect the school was at K-State. Let me tell you, that was campus-wide. It wasn't just in the vet school. Man, they believed in that. They were Wildcats to the core. K-State, 50% of that class was out of state. And they turned those kids into this loyal, we're going to support this veterinary school. I came to Oklahoma State. And what I found was students that were disgruntled. They had a you owe me attitude. And I'm thinking, gee whiz, this is not what we got to have. And so the way I attacked that was making sure that the student body knew that the faculty were in charge of this, and this associate dean was going to back them up. But at the same time, if the students had legitimate concerns, they were going to be addressed. They wouldn't be swept under the rug. We would address them. But I was not going to go down and be hard on a faculty member because they gave a hard test. I remember a young man in the third year class who was well known for being very, very outspoken. He walked into my office one day and said, "Dr. Lorenz," he said, "here's another example of what I'm talking about." And he throws down an exam that had been given in small animal orthopedic surgery by a faculty member named Mark Roche. And I picked up that exam and I pretended like I was looking at it, and I leafed through it. I laid it down and I said, "You know what I'm going to do?" I said, "I'm going to pick up the telephone and I'm going to call Dr. Roche." And this student broke out in a great big grin, and I said, "You know what I'm going to tell him? I'm going to tell him, thank you very much for upholding the high academic standards of this veterinary school." And that was the last time he came into my office. Now, this may seem high-handed, but students, if they respect you, will work really, really hard. And you don't have to give them anything, and there's a difference between giving it and respect because you're trying to make them a really, really good doctor. And that's what I went to work on. Turning that around to where the students understand what we're doing, know that you care about them, but you're not going to tolerate a whole bunch of shenanigans, and we're going to have high standards. We went to work on improving our national board performance. That culminated in the class of 2003 having some of the highest scores this college has ever seen. 100% pass the first time they take it. They set the national average, and we've done pretty well since then on our boards. And so we've turned it around. We got students today now that want to get engaged in legislative activities. They want to get engaged with alumni activities. They're coming to their class reunions. We see them at alumni receptions. And so I think the difference is engaging them positively and being honest with them. The other thing that has helped me here is I have stayed engaged in the classroom. I refuse to quit teaching. When they tell me I'm too old, I'm too outdated or whatever, then I'll quit. But I was in a classroom at noon today, 90 students in there taking an elective. They don't have to take that class. Now, one class is 75 to 80 students, so we got a lot of second year and third year students in that class. And that's helped me. It gives me an identity with the students. They see Michael Lorenz, real faculty member in the classroom. This man will go to the wall for them. But at the same time, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, he can be just as tough with them as well. So I think having that rapport with the students, being in class with them, has been a real asset.
Michael, when you came here, what was your early vision for the college? And I know that's how work sometimes. Where did you see the college going, particularly as you moved into the role of?
Well, when I moved into dean's role, at that time, what I was doing was trying to protect the college, because that was a time when the budgets went south and everybody was retrenching and whatever. But as I looked at the veterinary college from outside, my concern was that Oklahoma State's veterinary school was a place where young people went. Young people got good training. Young people would go faculty. They wouldn't stay there very long. And so my mission was, how do we solve that? What were some of the ways we could make that work so that people came here and said, gosh, I want to spend 10, 15 years here. And at the same time, you want young people to join your faculty to develop a resume so that they're competitive to go somewhere else. I mean, that's good too. But it just looked to me like there was too much turnover, and particularly in the Department of Clinical Sciences. And then get the curriculum rolling. The veterinary school at that time was making some moves to reestablish the research program. That was being done through an endowed chairs program. My predecessor, Joe Alexander, had been quite successful in doing endowed chairs and professorships. When I took over in 2001, there were 12 that were in place at that point in time. There are now 16, so we've added 4. I believe in a budgeting process that's totally transparent. I'm not a dean that likes to control the goal, therefore I can control people through the budget. We have deployed all the resources, and the units like that. They like that, and we have great communication with them. So at that point, it was to just stay solvent. As we've moved along in two areas simultaneously, and one is to continually build our research program, but at the same time make sure that we are not shortchanging the teaching program and the work that we do in our hospital and our diagnostic lab. And so we've tried some things out here that the main campus has not been willing to try. For instance, we did some things that provided huge incentives to research faculty. Since we provided those incentives, we've had no research faculty leave. And my strategy was we had to become more businesslike. The days of the state of Oklahoma handing us the resources we need are gone. In fact, if things continue the way they continue, you may be dealing with fewer resources, certainly as a percentage of your budget. So I had to convince people that they could go out and help themselves. There was an attitude in the clinics, well, until the state brings us more money, we're not going to do this. And my response to them was, if you see more cases, you generate more revenue. That's healthy for our students over here because they're seeing more cases. But we there's a practice plan. You get revenue because of that additional salary. I believe in looking at all of your operations and saying, if a business can do that better, let the private industry have it. We have a national laboratory working in the center of our teaching hospital. And the clinical path lab, we were running it. We weren't making any money. In fact, we were losing money. Nobody wanted to run it. Put it out. National Lab said, we'll bid on that thing. So today it operates in the center of our teaching hospital. It's Antech Labs, Farm Road. We get samples in here from all over the United States. We've enriched our teaching because of it. We've decreased our costs in our college by over $250,000 because of it. And there's revenue going into the teaching hospital. So I want to look for additional things that we might do that are like that. We're looking at ways of changing our enrollment, maybe increasing our enrollment to get more revenue into the college. So you got to be very entrepreneurial, and you got to be able to say, I'm going to take a risk and do this or do that.
You probably covered some of these, but what achievements and innovations in the college, during your tenure as dean, gives you the most professional satisfaction and personal pride, including teaching, research, service to the profession, etc.?
Well, I think we've gone along three ways. One is making sure that the teachers know how highly valued they are, and putting some additional resources with the good teachers so that teaching can use innovative technology, make sure our classrooms are equipped. We've done some things with distance education where we've actually imported coursework live from sites away from Stillwater to provide elective courses for our veterinary students. I think we're one of the leaders in veterinary colleges in doing that. I really am pleased with the progress we've made in the hospital, equipment that we've been able to get into our hospital. A lot of this is through private fundraising. Some of it has come through revenue, but if it wasn't for private gifts, we would be hurting for equipment. Getting all of the imaging, the radiology system digitalized, getting an advanced CT unit in here. So making sure that's happened, getting the addition to the diagnostic lab, which was sorely needed. And then in research, it's been this, let's don't lose sight of our focus here. Let's not try to spread ourselves out too thin. Let's get these areas of emphasis and let's stay with it. And one that I'm going to really feel proud about when it's finished is that one of the strengths here for a long time has been parasitology, veterinary parasitology. It's an area that other veterinary schools have said, they've got all the stuff out there. We don't need to teach very much about parasitology, but that's a huge issue in Oklahoma. And we've had this strength. We got Wendell Kroll, Everett Besh, who founded the veterinary school down at LSU. He was a faculty member here teaching it. Sidney Ewing, Catherine Kosan, just to name a few of some of those early folks. And what we're doing is we're raising money privately through industry to establish the National Center for Veterinary Parasitology here. And so the whole purpose of this is nationally and internationally, when people say veterinary parasitology, where do I go train? Where would I send this sample? They'll say, it's Oklahoma State. That's easy. There's where the National Center is. And we've been out trying to raise $1 million, and we've raised about $700,000 so far to get that center going. And so there's a strength we've had. We've maintained it. We've made sure we kept plenty of faculty in parasitology. Pathology is another area. And so I've looked at our history, our strengths, and said, okay, if you hire the right kind of people, they can motivate this. Well, we made one really good hire in parasitology. We brought one of the best teachers from the University of Georgia, and she came here. She's in a chair, and she's leading this charge. And, we're not going to be like Cornell or Georgia. But boy, and those things we choose to pursue, we're very, very strong.
Maybe changing that just a little bit, the focus here. But how would you describe the college experience for students today? And what is special about OSU that you encourage students to come to OSU College?
Oh, I think the greatest thing I see on this campus, something that I saw when I was a student here, but really enjoy it now that I'm back. I'm out here on this west 40 acres, so I don't get over to campus as much. But when I walk on campus, there's this genuine sense of friendliness. What I tell people is when you walk on the OSU campus and somebody says, hi, how are you? They really mean it. And I don't care whether you're a faculty member or students talking to faculty members or whatever. We stop for our students when they're in a crosswalk. Generally we do. People are impressed. I said, well, what do you do with your students when they're crosswalk? Well, we run over them. I said, well, they're the ones that are paying your way here. Come on. And so there's a lot of things for students to do here. It's a very safe environment for people to send their youngsters. And if you want to find out what our students and our faculty think, go to our website, and we've got little video excerpts out there talking about, these are primarily faculty that got their degrees here from this veterinary school, went to Oklahoma State, telling them about the experience. Now, we got some that didn't, and they bought into this OSU business as well. But if I had a crisis here this afternoon, I could walk down the hall or pick up the phone, and I would have the faculty and the administration lined up, ready to go. I mean, that's just how cohesive it works here. People say, well, don't you ever have people that are disgruntled? Well, sure we do. But our bottom line is we're too small to fight. It takes too much time. And the campus is beautiful. That's the other thing. You know, my wife is now reading a book by Angie DeBow. It's her description about Oklahoma and the early days of Oklahoma. And she makes a statement in there that what characterizes an Okie is this constant searching for affirmation. You know what I mean? And I find myself, when there's faculty coming here to interview from out of state, I'll say to them, well, is this your first trip to Oklahoma? And they'll say, yes. Well, what were you expecting? And, you know, did you think cars didn't have rubber tires? And did you think it was all about Steinbeck and the grapes of wrath? And they're extremely complimentary. You know, the first impressions here in Stillwater and this university are really, really a plus. They find the campus beautiful. We like to put them up over in the student union, in the Atherton. Well, they think that's, wow, you guys got that. Then I like to take them over to the Athletic Hall of Fame and point out to them, you didn't think we were very good at athletics. Walk around in here for a while and it'll change your tune. You know, 33 national championships in wrestling help us, right?
In your opinion, Mike, how is the profession changing, and what is the College of Veterinary Medicine doing to address the needs and opportunities created?
No, that's a very insightful question. Been huge changes. One has been the feminization of the profession. You know, veterinary classes now are 70-80% women in most veterinary schools. And last year, the number of women veterinarians now outnumber the number of men veterinarians in this country. So women are going to become the leaders of the profession. They're going to be the practice owners. And I think the profession has struggled with that a bit. We should have paid attention to Clarence McElroy back in the 1950s when he said this is no issue. And I think by and large veterinary medicine has braced it fairly well. But you know, it brings up the issues of raising children during school, being pregnant during school. How do you deal with it? I think we've got a pretty good handle on that. The second part about veterinary medicine that's been a change has been the rapid rise of small animal medicine and the rapid rise of specialization within small animal medicine. If you look at TV today, veterinarians are characterized as being somebody's dog or cat doctor. And a lot of Americans do not know the very rich heritage from which veterinary medicine came. And a lot of the careers at veterinary medicine, a lot of the careers that a veterinarian, a new graduate is suited for, public health, government work, large animal work, whatever. Now, what this gender shift, along with this tremendous draw for small animal and specialization, has created some issues that are of great worry to me, and I think great worry to the profession. One, there is a shortage of young people that want to go back to rural communities and practice. There's a multitude of reasons why that's happened, okay? And in a moment I'll tell you what our strategies have been. Two, there's such a draw for the specialized practices, the private practices. We're having one devil of time hiring faculty in our small animal hospitals, and even sometimes in equine. And they're making a lot more money, they have better hours, etc. And so that's been an issue. So those are the big ones. At a time when the federal government, everybody says we got to have more veterinarians, the the number thrown out over the next 5 years, a deficiency of 15,000 veterinarians in the United States, realizing we're only graduating about 2,300, 2,500 veterinarians every year.
Is bioterrorism a part of that issue?
Bioterrorism is a part of that, Homeland Security, USDA, and veterinarians have this unique comparative medicine education. Well, let me tell how we think you address this. And we don't think you address this by, at least for us, doing anything real novel with how you train a veterinarian. We think the best trained veterinarian to enter a variety of careers is the way we've been training them for a number of years. And that is, we train primary care veterinarians here, and they're very good. And the reason they're good is they get a lot of hand-on animal experience. And we don't try to cover them up with all of the referral cases and tertiary care things that they're probably not going to do without a lot more education. What we want them to do is feel really comfortable and really confident in being a primary care doctor. That's what rural America needs. That's what a small animal practice needs. If they're going to go into some of these other careers, it's going to take additional education. We offer a research experience for our students. Those that want to go into research, they have a research track that they enter during the summer. We have an NIH program that they can go in and actually start a PhD program while they're veterinarians. But the vast majority of the students coming here want to be, quote, practitioners for a period of time. Encouraging more of our students to look at internships and residency and clinical training. Even if they don't come back to academia, they'll make 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money they will make is just going into a practice as an associate veterinarian. So I want the public to know a lot more about what veterinarians do other than what they see on Animal Planet. And the other big issue has been the human-animal bond. We've watched dogs and cats become surrogate kids. And that's good for the profession. People have discretionary money. They'll spend a lot of money on their dogs and cats. That has really energized the specialization over here in small animal. But when you're out in rural Oklahoma, it's a little different scenario. So I think our kids are really well prepared. And I guess what I enjoy the most is listening to practitioners from other veterinary schools practicing in other states that say, Dean Lorenz, I'd hire an Oklahoma State graduate before I'd hire one from my own vet school. Why would you do that? Well, they know what to do when they come out of vet school. Good. Enough said.
What, just tagging on to some of the conversation we had, what do you see as the challenge or there are 2 or 3 things that in the next 5, 10 years out there on the horizon that are, your profession and the college here is going to need to address?
I think for colleges of veterinary medicine, the issue is seeing the funding base change from state support to state assistance. When I came here in 1997, state was probably funding 45 to 50% of this budget. It's now funding less than 30% of our operating budget. So figuring out how to get those resources to keep your program going, and how can you be innovative? How do you decrease cost within your program? That's a huge challenge. And faculty, the faculty issue, hiring faculty, retaining faculty, this is a huge issue for veterinary schools throughout the United States and Canada. Again, there's so many opportunities out there for these highly trained people, private practice, industry, government work, things like that pay salaries higher than what we are. So we struggle here to be competitive with private practice. We are quite competitive salary-wise. In fact, we lead this whole campus. I forgot about mentioning this is, I think one of the things I'm really going to look back on was while I was dean, we made all the effort to bring ourselves to the national average for salaries for faculty as associate, assistant, associate, and full professors. And we got there. We lead this entire OSU system in where we rank compared to our peers in salary. And we made some decisions that were instrumental. When times were tough and we needed to keep faculty, we cannibalized some faculty positions and took that money and raised the salary of faculty. And it has paid off quite well from the standpoint of how we compete with other veterinary schools. And when the campus looks at their salary base and they look at veterinary medicine, well, you don't have any issues out there. Well, yeah, we do, because we're competing over here to this private side. Yeah.
What do you think, looking back, Mike, and maybe you still got a few years left, what do you think will be your legacy as Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine?
Well, as you look back on that, I don't know. I would like to think it's the style of administration I brought in here. It's a style that I really believe in. And, steward leadership, I guess, being able to carry on a role like the other faculty. I think the openness of the way we operate, no surprises. I think people feel a part of that. I think that's an important part. Folks know this isn't a game about Michael Lorenz padding his resume, because Michael Lorenz isn't going anywhere. It's like Boone Pickens said last night, I've made enough money for myself. When they asked him about the Pickens plan.
Still working on your first billion.
Yeah, I'm still working on my first billion. That's the hardest. So what I'm really striving to do right now is I want to leave that teaching hospital in better shape than it's ever been. Facility-wise, equipment-wise, we need, in addition to that teaching hospital, it's called an academic center. We're trying to raise money privately and with the state. We're trying to get a critical care unit built for equine. That's a $3 million piece of change. We've raised about $1.3 million. Got $1 million from the Gaylord Foundation. First gift they ever gave to Stillwater. Now you see the vet schools, the state of Oklahoma's vet school just happens to be in Stillwater. Don't get me wrong, we bleed orange out here too. And so those are important, and it's so important to our faculty and clinical faculty. And then we have a research addition that needs to be built in order for us to continue to expand our research operation. So I hope it just be a whole bunch of things. But I think people say I just liked working with him. He was a good guy, honest. Didn't keep all the money in the dean's office.
Mike, is there anything that we haven't covered that we need to discuss? The college?
No, this having come back and worked with it, and don't get me wrong, I had a great experience at Cornell, and we loved our experience at Georgia, and there were lots of good things that happened at K-State. But for me personally, this is the last 11 years. This has been the best for me. And again, I think it goes back to this grit and fight, and we're going to figure out how to do it, attitude that we have here. And I just love these students, and the majority of them are going to go out and going to be fine, upright citizens, and they're going to be great representatives of this university. And I think there's many of them in each class that are going to be leaders in the profession. So, yep, good place. In fact, I think it's probably better than the state deserves, given the small budget that they give us.
It is the campaign season, the federal announcement there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Okay. Kind of back to a couple of questions that Dean Lorenz was talking about earlier. To enjoy this position and to be dean and to all the challenges and quote opportunities you have to have a lot of passion for it. Would you kind of share, a little bit your passion about Oklahoma State?
Well, I think anybody who's around me very long realizes that he's the orangest dean on campus. Has a great passion for the place, not alone just the athletic part of it, but the whole thing that embodies this university, and it comes across to people. One of the things I did early on was I'd taken to wearing orange socks.
I was going to ask you about that. Of course, I got to ask you. You know, she didn't have your orange tie on.
No.
You've already apologized for that, so it's okay.
If I'd have remembered we were doing this, you certainly wouldn't have on this, but it's got dogs on it. so that's okay. But I normally have on something that's orange every day. In fact, my sport coat over there's got Pistol Pete on it.
So
That's the other thing. Look around my office. Look at all this Pistol Pete stuff.
I ought to pan it right now. Well, let's hear the story about the orange socks.
Okay, the story about the orange socks. Well, I started wearing them, and people started calling some attention to them. I wore them every Friday, and I wore them at all athletic events. And so I hit on this idea that the veterinary school needed something that would just sort of bind the alumni together. So I decided that we would develop this loyal and true order of orange socks. And so I wrote a little script, and it just randomly we choose folks to be inducted into the loyal and true order of orange socks.
Can I back up where did you go with that orange socks? I mean, that's a little different.
Where did I get them?
Where'd you get the idea of orange socks?
Well, my wife knew that I had this passion for orange. And she'd been up at Chris's one day, and she brought me home this pair of orange socks that's got the OSU logo all over them. And I started wearing them. And people started making attention to it. So then I get this idea, this could be good. Alumni want to know if I got them on. Where's your orange socks, Dr. Lorenz? Hey, Mike, where's your orange socks? So I wrote this little script, and basically the script is written so that Pistol Pete Frank Eaton is the person who's involved in this, and he speaks out of heaven to describe who will be the next inductees into this. And it's a neat little ceremony. We do it at alumni receptions. We do it sometimes here in the college, and the two criteria are you have to be an alum of the vet school. That's one criteria, or you've been willing to give your last drop of blood for the veterinary college. And so we have about 20 people in it now, and VetCetra, our college newsletter, will have a story about the orange socks in it this time. But when I go to alumni receptions, that's what they want. They want to know who's going to be in. People are coming up, hey, Dr. Lorenz, Dean Lorenz, do I qualify? When can I be in this thing? And so you don't overdo it. You want them to continually want to do this. And they'll come to these receptions. They'll have those orange socks on. They'll show them. And there's a little piece of it that says this stands for Orange Socks United. Hokey, but sometimes things like that work. And so I'll probably be known for orange socks when I quit.
Well, but really, there's a message, obviously, about what you're saying. And going back to the previous part of our conversation about engaging alumni was one of your challenges and one of your goals as part of your own vision. Can you talk a little bit more maybe about alumni relations and some of the things you've done to engage and involve alumni in the college and to get their resources also? When
I came in 1997, this rancor between the practitioners and the alums in the veterinary school was going full blast. Mm-hmm. And development people had gone out with the idea, we're just going to go around and call on people and get them to donate money. Well, they got their heads cut off, okay? And so when I got here in 97, development officer was Mary Curl. And she also worked with John Cathy. And they told me about what was happening. And since I was an alum, what could I add? I said, well, let's turn this let's go hold town hall meetings. And when you go on veterinarians' turf, you don't let them totally run the program, but you got to be willing to listen. Well, we started doing town hall meetings. And veterinarians are like elephants. They never forget a bad experience. You can do 10 things right, but they'll always bring up that one bad thing. And so we went out, and they had problems with admissions, and they had problems with referrals, and they had problems with this faculty member. And so we sat and we listened. We didn't judge. And I knew it would talk itself out. But the fact that you're willing to go and listen to it, driving back and say, how do you sit there and listen to all that? I said, look, I'm a clinician. I am used to listening to veterinarians ream me. I'm used to clients calling me a liar and everything else. I mean, it just comes with the territory. And so slowly what happened is town hall meetings became positive. Because now you're out and you're talking about what you're doing.
About how many a year were you making, Mike?
4 or 5. We're not doing very many right now. We need to get back doing them. We do about a couple a year now. The veterinarians say don't do them anymore, Michael Lorenz, because you're communicating with us. We've opened up the communications. We do a weekly email newsletter. It's called Net Vet Weekly. It goes out to the Oklahoma Veterinary Medical Association listserv. That thing is a weekly dialogue about what's happening in the veterinary school. So we turned it around from rancor to acceptance and listening and knowing that if they called, it wasn't put on the shelf. You know, I have a rule here. If there's anything I'm really staunch about, the time to talk to somebody that's unhappy is now. Not 3 days from now, now. Because 3 days from now, they're just madder because you didn't talk to them. And people have bought into this. And so if we have a problem with the teaching hospital, I'm worried about it. Mark Neer, our teaching hospital director, he handles it just like that. And that's different than the way we used to do it, where, you know, maybe we'd deal with it, maybe we couldn't have done that wrong, da-da-da-da-da. And so that, I think, with our practitioners and with our alumni, and this transparency that they see, now what we've done is we don't mind asking them. I was told that our alumni had no money and wouldn't give us money. That's what I was told when I came here. And I thought, well, you know, veterinarians are not very wealthy. I understand that. But the biggest donor that this vet school ever received was from a guy by the name of Sitlington. One of our alums brought him to this university. Deans didn't find him, presidents didn't find him. It was a veterinarian that graduated from here that brought Walter Sitlington to the university, and the rest is history. And unfortunately, that alumnus never was given the credit for finding the person. Well, he has been now. And so, but we have an alum that's just signed two $5 million deferred gifts with us. Lives in California, one of our alums. And this is not about just raising money from them, but our alumni know, because they were students here. They know where the strengths are. They know where the deficiencies are. They understand the importance of scholarship. They understand the importance of equipment. And I'm hearing from them everywhere, you know, how can I help?
Do you engage them in terms of curriculum advisement, practice advisement, things like that?
We have a Dean's Development Associate group that's got several of our alumni on it. I did have a committee that worked with the veterinary school through the Oklahoma Veterinary Medical Association. That committee doesn't meet anymore. They said, we don't need to. We know what's going on. My advice to them is, yeah, but if Lorenz isn't your dean in a couple of years and you get a ringer, you know, how are you going to respond? I sit on the Oklahoma Veterinary Medicine Executive Board. And so every time they meet, you know, here's this dialogue from the veterinary school. I just think we've opened it up to where we've done a much better job. Well, one strategy was we're a secret nobody knows about. We are going to market this place better. The university's done a better job at that. Okay, so we're doing that better, and constantly extolling what your alumni have done. You just got to keep doing that. And whether they're in a small animal practice in Tulsa or a rural practice in Veneta, you know, they all have something very, very, very positive to bring to the table. And you want them to support you, you got to listen to them and actually have the passion for what they're doing.
You also have noticed when you bring them back for special recognition, for class reunions, it seems like yourself as dean and college administrators, in fact, are engaged and involved in those activities with them.
We make it a point. We're going to be doing our fall conference this weekend, and bad back and all, Michael Lorenz will be there to make as many of those class reunions. It's not to give them a pledge card. It's just to walk in and say, I'm proud that I'm one of you. You know, and that plays well. And you see folks, I think that's one of Burns Hargis's strengths right now, is that he's an alum. They're going to accept him far more than they're going to accept somebody from the outside. And you just hope you got somebody good from the inside. doing stuff like that. Hopefully, I've been good for the college.
Mike, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, we're good. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You bet.